students like champions, I welcome you all to score 19% in 99 days. Today we are going to deal with the next chapter, that is our environment, and I'll try to complete this chapter in one video itself. Tomorrow we will be doing the previous year questions that have come from this chapter. So it becomes a lot more easy for you, because I know when you see so many parts you get bored by that itself. So let's say bye-bye to boring sessions. Let's begin. Let's study with zeal and complete this chapter in one go. So over here the first question is, what do we exactly mean by environment? What according to you children is environment? I say my environment is really good. That means my surroundings is really good. What is my surrounding made up of? My surrounding is made up of fellow human beings, right? Dogs, cats, lot of things, and also all the abiotic things. Okay, so can I say environment is a sum of what? The biotic as well as abiotic components, the living and the non-living components. So here we have the cute little grandma saying that sum total of all the biotic and abiotic factors that surrounds an organism is what? Environment. Now I have a question for you. If environment is this, then what do you mean by ecosystem, my dear children? What is ecosystem? So ecosystem is also the same thing. It's the abiotic and the biotic factors which are there. But there is also one more thing that you need to add up when you're talking about ecosystem, and that is what? Ecosystem is a group of what? A group or community. Group or basically a community of living and non-living things which are basically interdependent on each other. So when that term comes, that interdependency term comes, that means you're talking about ecosystem. When you're talking about environment, it's just the surrounding. When you're talking about ecosystem, you're saying that these surrounding things which are there, they're kind of interacting with each other, and this becomes a community. This forms a community, and this is known as an ecosystem. Okay, so ecosystem can be defined as a community of living organisms, environmental factors and all their interrelationship in a particular unit of space. So over here we see the biotic factors, that is the butterfly, and then here you have the non-living or the abiotic factor, which is the water. Cool. Now who gave this term, that is ecosystem? Ecosystem term was given by none other than this guy whose name was Arthur Tansley. What is his name, children? Arthur Tansley, young dashing guy. I don't know if it's young, but kind of dashing. Yeah. Now, are there different types of ecosystem? What do you think? Do you think there are different types of ecosystem? I'll say yes. And there are two very important different types of ecosystem. One is natural and the other one is artificial. What do you mean by natural? Natural means naturally it is occurring. Natural means naturally it is occurring. For that I have to take you somewhere. Yeah. So this is a natural ecosystem. It's a lake or a pond being made. Okay, it's just there. It's just there. We didn't make it. So over here it occurs naturally and all the organisms are there. We do not have to do anything. There is no need of any human activity there. So this becomes an example of what? Natural ecosystem. It occurs naturally and requires no human activity for its functioning. Examples of natural system includes ponds, rivers, forests, everything. Now apart from that, there is artificial ecosystem which we make. Can you give an example of that? Now this is a very important question that comes. What is an example of an artificial ecosystem? Something that we make. An artificial ecosystem should contain biotic and abiotic things. For example, an aquarium. An aquarium has the biotic thing, that is the fishes, and when we put pebbles, when we put water, that is the abiotic thing. So aren't we making it? Yes. So that becomes an example of artificial ecosystem. Over here it is man-made structures and needs man support as well. It is not self-sustaining. We have to clean it. We have to clean the pond and everything. Why? Not the pond, basically the aquarium. Why so? Because in the ecosystem that we are creating, we are not putting everything that is there in a natural ecosystem. For example, in a natural ecosystem, you will be finding a lot of organisms which are known as decomposers, which are going to break down organic matter into inorganic matter by themselves. But over here, we are not going to put any decomposers. Decomposers means bacteria, fungi and things like that. So basically, it is not self-sustaining. They need our help. Example of such ecosystem is aquarium, agriculture, zoo and everything, right? Now, there's a brief about natural ecosystem. In natural, you can divide again into aquatic and what? Terrestrial, my dear children. Aquatic means water. So there is freshwater ecosystem and there is what? Marine water. Freshwater means the salinity, the level of salt will be less, and marine means the level of salt will be really more. Now over here in freshwater also you have lentic, you have lotic and you have wetlands. What do you have? Lentic as in the one that does not flow. Okay, for example, pond and lake and things like that. Lotic as in the one that always flows. For example, you have rivers and things like that. Wetlands as in where there is land region and also it has little amount of water. For example, you're talking about marshes and swamps. Okay, and then under marine you have open oceans that you see. You have coastal areas. Okay, you have other regions that is known as upwelling regions. Upwelling regions are nothing but basically certain area which have a mix of two ecosystem being coming together. Okay. So over here, where are this? Upwelling a region, no, it looks somewhat like this, I'll tell you. Just give me a little bit of time. Yeah, suppose this is the water body. Okay, so the water from here is going to come up, and the water which is already there, it is going to come down. So this region that is being formed is known as upwelling regions. Okay, that is also a part of marine ecosystem. Now, yes, in terrestrial also you have different types of things. You have grassland where there are more grasses. You have desert where there is nothing, no plantation and things like that. Very few is there. Okay, and then there is forest which is, as you know, very much flourished. Now, here you saw marshes and swamps and wetlands. So, I am just giving you an example. What do you mean by marshes? So, marshes is a place where there will be land regions along with a little amount of grass and little amount of water. There will be lots of grass, there will be very less trees, and it will be nutrient rich. There is swamps where there are so many trees and water. So, there are here grass and water, there you will be finding so many trees and then water. And then there is bogs where there is dried grass, okay, not dried grass exactly, but you have there something like that, and also some amount of water. So, bogs, swamps as well as marshes are kind of wetlands, my dear children. This comes under fresh water. So, the water that is over here, it has less salinity. It is coming under freshwater ecosystem. So, natural ecosystem is not man-made, okay, and there you have aquatic, and then you have terrestrial. Under aquatic also you have different things. What do you have, children? Under aquatic you have low-tech, you have lentic, and then wetlands. Okay, low-tech means the one that flows, for example river, sea and things. River, not sea, okay, river. Now talking about lentic, that means the one that does not flow, for example pond and lakes, okay, and then you have wetlands like swamps, marshes and stuff like that. Now in marine ecosystem you have open oceans, you have upwelling regions, you have coastal areas and things like that. Under terrestrial you have grassland and there is forest, there is desert and a lot of other things, Chandra, a lot of things are there. I'm not going to get in deep into that, but that's the thing. Okay, so that's about natural ecosystem, and this is about artificial ecosystem. Now, what are the biotic components? Whenever we say about the biotic components, what are the actual biotic components? Do they have segregation? Yes. So, the first biotic component that is always there in an ecosystem is producers, my dear children. Who are producers? Producers are the ones that will produce food. They are the ones that can produce food by themselves, and we are not someone who can produce food by ourselves. We need content and we make food out of it. But there are certain things, certain organisms such as what? Plants, my dear children. Who says that we just need carbon dioxide? Who just say that we need just water to make organic compounds like C6H12O6? I hope you know this reaction. This is known as photosynthesis. Basically over here, what are they doing? They are making use of inorganic substances to make organic substances, and this is the food that we all are dependent upon. So they are making food for themselves and also us. So they are known as what? Producers. And what energy are they going to use? They are going to use solar energy, that is sun's energy, or chemical energy from a chemical reaction. And what they are going to do? They are going to convert simple inorganic molecules to what? Organic compounds. Now they are also known as what, children? They are also known as autotrophs. What do you call them? You also call them autotrophs. Works? Okay, autotrophs as in the one that can make their own food. So that is one biotic component that we have. And now the one that depends on the producers or what? Consumers. So consumers are organisms that depend on other organisms of food. They take in the organic molecule. So they do not have the capacity to basically convert inorganic to organic things. So directly they are depending on the organic things that are made by the producers and essentially eating other living things. Consumers are also known as heterotrophs. Hetero means others, trophs means nutrition. They are dependent on others for nutrition. For example, us, we are consumers, my dear children. So over here you see cow. Cow is a consumer. So it's saying, oops, lion, I thought we are a team. Basically, lion is also going to eat this guy. This guy is going to eat what? The producer. So anyways, this is also consumer, this is also consumer. This consumer is directly eating the plant, and this consumer is going to eat some organism that is going to eat the plant. You get it? So what do you call this consumer as? Okay, so you have a plant over here. I'll explain you one more thing over here itself. You have a plant. This guy is eating the plant. So what do you call this guy as? This guy that you see over here is a primary consumer, because it is directly feeding on the plant. This guy that you see over here is a secondary consumer. It is going to eat another organism that depends on the plant. So in consumer also you have primary, secondary, tertiary and things like that. Now over here, this is the thing that I was saying. So primary consumer is, for example, grasshopper. they feed directly on the producer. They can be either a herbivore that eats plant, or they can be an omnivore that eats both plant and animals. But mostly it is always herbivores. Now, the primary consumers are eaten up by the second guy, that is secondary consumer. So, the rat comes and eat the grasshopper. So, those that feed on the primary consumer are either carnivores or basically omnivores. Again, they have to be either a carnivore or basically they have to be an omnivore. Omnivore as in they just have both, they eat both plants as well as animals. Now, there is someone who will eat the secondary consumer. Who is that? Tertiary consumer. Over here we have the snake. So, those that feed on the secondary consumer are known as tertiary consumer. There will be one more, that is quaternary consumer. Now, apart from producers and consumers that you saw, there is one more group of organisms which you call as what, children? Decomposers. Decomposers have a big heart. They give back things to nature. Why do I say so? So, think, for example, an organism died. For example, a plant died, or basically an organism died. What happens? In their body, they have organic substances. They have organic substances. So, there should be someone who should be breaking down this organic substances back into inorganic things. Because why? Because the plants who make food for us, they need the inorganic things. They will be needing the inorganic things for sure. Inorganic things, for example, CO2 is inorganic, or basically H2O is inorganic, or whatever components there. CO2 you don't get from this, but anyways, yeah. You have so many, nitrogen, things like that coming off from these things, okay, they are all inorganic things. So, basically, obviously, there should be someone who does this, who breaks the organic matter which is there in the dead and the decaying matter. So, who are those organisms, my dear children? They are known as decomposers. And decomposers, always remember, they are microorganisms. You would not be able to see that, okay. And I remember it with the help of FB, that is Facebook. One is fungus and the other one is bacteria. So, decomposers are microorganisms that break down the complex organic compounds present in the dead plants and animals and their products, such as feces and all the feces, okay, that is the excreta. It is also getting broken down to what? Simple inorganic substances, which is why they said that decomposers have a big heart, because they are going to give back the things to the nature. Decomposers are also known as micro consumers because they are basically small and they consume things. Okay, sweet, I just wrote that, chumma. Now, there is something else that is known as detritivores. There is something else that is known as detritivores. What do you mean by that? Detritivores are different from decomposers in that they consume material to break it down. Decomposers, how do they decompose things? Basically, this fungus is a mushroom is a decomposer. It will be releasing certain enzymes. Suppose the food is over here. This is a dead organism that is over here. It will be releasing enzymes to break this dead organism, and whatever important nutrients are there, that is being uptaken back by the mushroom. That is uptaken back by the mushroom. So, this is done by decomposers. Whereas, when you talk about detritivores, they take in the food. They take in the food gets inside the body, is getting broken down inside the body and later given out. Okay. And hence, here also they are breaking down bigger things into smaller things. They are going to excrete out in a simpler form, but not like them. They are consuming things, they are breaking things down outside itself, outside the body. So, detritivores are different from the decomposers in the way that they consume material to break it down, while decomposers break it down what? Externally. Also, decomposers consume nutrients on a molecular level, while detritivores basically are going to eat large amount of decaying matter and excrete the nutrients. Okay, and these nutrients can be uptaken by the plants or whoever is needed. Fine. Now, this is what? This is a set of organism, and over here I have grass, grasshopper, frog, python and then eagle. Now, children, I have said the first guy who comes in will always be a producer, because this is the only guy, okay, that can prepare its own food. Rest all of the guys are dependent. Now, it is preparing their own food with the help of what? Sun's energy or basically chemical energy. So, the first guy, I will say, it has the first level. When you play games, no, you have first level, second level. Similarly, here also you have level 1, level 2, level 3. So, this is known as trophic level 1. Producers are always on trophic level 1. Then this primary consumer, this is what? A primary consumer. Primary consumer will be on trophic level 2. That is a grasshopper. This guy is going to eat the grasshopper. So, this guy is a secondary consumer, and this guy would be always come in trophic level 3. Now, again, python is going to eat this. So, this will be a tertiary consumer and it will come in trophic level 4. This will be a quaternary consumer and this will be coming in trophic level 5. So these levels or trophic levels, what do you mean by that? Trophic levels are different levels in the food chain. This thing that you see over here is a chain, my dear children. It's a food chain because this guy is eating this guy is eating that guy. So basically this is a food chain, and each level of a food chain through which the food and the energy is passed, you call this as trophic levels. Okay? Now, a food chain is a linear sequence of organisms through which nutrients and energy pass from one organism when one organism eats the other organism. So over here you see the food chain. I will show you once more. Okay, this is a very cool GIF that I found. Do credits to the people who made it. Okay, see, mosquito is there. It's eaten up by the lizard. Okay, lizard is eaten up by a bird. Okay, and now what happens? The bird is eaten up by the tiger. So this is a food chain that happens. So food chain helps in understanding the food relationship and interactions. This is an important question. What is the use of food chain, or basically what are the features of food chain? You should be knowing it. So there is a decline in the amount of energy available as we move from one trophic level to another. So that I will come to that. Okay, I will come to that. It is always straight, shows no alternate pathway. It is always straight. For example, grass is eaten by grasshopper, then this guy eats that. So there is no other lines in food chain. When you talk about food chain, there is only one line, one straight line, always straight, no, does not show any alternate pathway. Now food chain has unidirectional flow of energy. What is it, children? Unidirectional flow of energy. That means the energy flows just in one direction. From one trophic level, from one trophic level, things are going to go to the next trophic level, and it will go on like that. Cool. Now, one very important thing. If you are someone who is very much confused about what you should be doing after your 10th grade, that is Diksha's Scholastic Aptitude Test, you can take it. The link is given in the description box. You can click on that. If you want to know more information about it, I will be talking about it in detail when we are towards the end of this particular session. Works? Now, yes. So now there is something that is known as food web. Do you think there is only food chain? No. Food chain, for example, the grasshopper, for example, there is grass. The grass is not just eaten by the grasshopper. It can be a rabbit also. It can be a cow also. Anything can be there. So basically, there are interlinking food chains in our nature, and these interlinking food chains, what do you call them? You call this as a food web. So over here, you have the mouse. Okay, you have the rabbit. You have the goat also. There is a mouse also. This rabbit can be eaten by a jackal or can be eaten by a wild cat. This goat can be eaten by a jackal or by a lion. Anything can happen. So over here you see, this is the food chain, but the food chain is kind of interlinked. There are so many links between the food chain, and this is what you call as food web. So food web is a complex network of interconnecting and overlapping food chain showing feeding relationships between or within a community. It shows the feeding relationship, right? How do they feed? That is being shown over here. Now food web is basically formed by interlinking food chains. It is never straight. When you talk about food chain, it was straight line, but over here, do you see it straight? No, there can be alternate pathways. It is never straight. There can be always alternate pathways, my dear children. Now alternatives available in a food web make the ecosystem more stable, right? Obviously, if there was only one guy that was eating the this thing, that is the plants, the rabbit will be flourishing, the rabbit will be flourishing. Obviously, there should be some competition among them. That's when the other organism can also flourish. So there will be a balance. Otherwise, one organism will be increasing way too much. Then the other organism which is feeding on it will also increase. The other organism will also increase. So that is a problem. And then when the organisms they are increasing way too much, they will start basically feeding on other organisms. That now after one point of time there will be decline. Once it will go up, then there will be decline that will be seen. So we don't want that to happen. So food web is basically making the ecosystem more stable. Fine. And also, if there is only one food chain, organisms will be dying. For example, plant is there and plant is being fed up by rabbit only. Rabbit is eating only plant, nothing else. Okay. So basically, suppose the plant is not there now. Rabbit population will be going, and the other organisms which are dependent on the rabbits, they will also die. So that is also a problem, which is why we say we need a food web to make things more stable. And food web is never straight. There is a difference question being asked for food chain and food web. In tomorrow's PYQ session, I will be discussing about that also. Be there. It will be really fun. Okay, now in your inside your textbook there is something like this, if you have noticed. So primary producer is there. Okay, basically producer is there. Then primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer is there. This is the first trophic level, this is second, this is third, and this is fourth trophic level. Now over here, grass is there, trees is there. So this is the terrestrial ecosystem. But what are phytoplankton and how can they be producers? So phytoplanktons are things that you find in aquatic ecosystem, my dear children. Where do you find them? You find them in aquatic ecosystem. And what do phytoplanktons do? Basically, phytoplanktons are there, they get the energy from the sunlight itself, they will be flourishing, okay, and these phytoplanktons are then eaten up by zooplanktons, and the zooplanktons are basically eaten up by small fishes, and small fishes are basically eaten up by large fishes. So this is the food chain of aquatic ecosystem. Please remember, okay, you have phytoplankton, then you have zooplankton, then you have small fishes, then you have large fishes. So this will be the one that occupies the producer level, that is T1, this is T2, this is T3, and this is T4. Always remember that. Now this is the pond ecosystem. I made it over here. So what is there? What is there? Let's see. Biotic and abiotic things are also being mentioned over here. Solar sun is basically abiotic factor. Okay, plants, phytoplankton which are there, both of them are biotic factors. Zooplankton which is there, that is also a biotic factor. Water is there, that is abiotic factor. So this is a pond ecosystem which has both the biotic and abiotic factor. Now this is a food chain that happens, okay, producers are there, consumers are there, different trophic levels are there, you know, autotroph, everything is being mentioned about it. Now there is something that is known as 10% law, my dear champions. What do you mean by that? So 10% law states that during transfer of energy from one trophic level to the next level, only 10% of energy is available to the higher trophic level. I will make it really easy for you to understand. So there is grass and feeding on it there is rabbit. Suppose a rabbit is being, okay, usually do not put arrows like this, I always forget. A rabbit is being eaten up by a lion. So I am saying grass is on producer level, that is T1 stage. This is T2 and this is T3. Now there is sun, there is energy from the sun which is uptaken by grass. Now sun's energy, how much of energy is taken by the grass, my dear children, producers? Always remember, it is just 1%. It is just 1% of the whole solar energy that is being taken up by the grass. And that 1% is supposed 2000 kilojoules. Suppose it is 2000 kilojoules. When you say 1% of solar energy, probably it is 2000 kilojoules. Now you have to remember this thing, first thing, sun's energy, it is always 1%, remember it. Now if the question comes, what is the percentage of energy that is transferred from the sun to the producers? It is 1%. Now if the question comes, what is the percentage of energy transferred from the producers to the first trophic level? So the second trophic level, organisms. So how do you answer that? Basically, always remember, so according to a 10% law rule, or basically a 10% rule, what happens is that only 10% of the energy is going to the next trophic level. Only 10% of the energy would be going to the next trophic level. That means if you say 2000, then what is the 10% of 2000? You do 10 by 100, 0, 0, 0, 0, what do you get? Basically you get 200 kilojoules. So this guy will be just having 200 kilojoules of energy. Now, if this guy has to give energy when this is being eaten up by lion, how much amount of energy does the lion get? Again, just 10% of what? Of this number. So 200 into 10 divided by 100, 0, 0, 0, 0 cancel. What do you get? 20 kilojoules of energy is there. Only 20 kilojoules of energy. Okay, so where is the rest of the energy lost, ma'am? Basically, the grass will be utilizing for itself also. It has to prepare the food, so it will need a lot of energy. Then respiration, everything for it to stay alive, it needs energy. Apart from that, when it basically when one energy is transformed to the other, it might be lost in the form of some other energy, for example heat energy and things like that. So that is another loss that happens. So 90% of energy is gone, 10% is being given. Okay, I hope you understand that law. So according to 10% law, when you go from one trophic level to another trophic level, basically you're just passing only 10% of the energy. That is the 10% law. So it states that during transfer of energy from one trophic level to the next trophic level, only 10% of energy is available to the higher trophic level, and the remaining 90% is lost in respiration and heat. So there are two laws of thermodynamics which applies over here, which is not given in your NCERT, just for your understanding. it says that first law says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can be just transformed from one form to another. So it is not created or destroyed. Basically, it is transformed from, for example, sun's energy. Light energy is converted to what? Chemical energy in the case of plants. Okay, that is one thing. Now, second law of thermodynamics states that every energy transformation that takes place will increase the entropy of the universe. Every energy transformation cannot be 100% efficient. Some energy is always lost as heat. That is easy for you to remember. Remember this part. So whenever there is an energy transformation taking place or energy transfer taking place, it's not 100% efficient. There will be some energy lost as heat as well, which is why I say not 10%. Basically over here, where is it? So basically over here, oh, that plant is gone. Okay, so that's why only 10% of the thing is being transferred. Rest of the things are being lost as heat and can be utilized by the organisms which are taking the food down. Okay, now sun bro, just give me at least 1 to 5% of the whole solar energy. No, it is telling to the sun bro, and sun actually gives it. Hey little champ, you mean 2 to 10% of the photosynthetic active radiation? So basically, I'll tell you one thing. Okay, we say 1 to 5% of the whole solar energy. Okay, but it is not whole solar energy. Solar energy, no. There are certain radiations which we cannot take. There are type of radiations which we cannot take. The only usable type of radiation that we need is visible light. Is what, children? Visible light. Okay, and what is the percentage of visible light which can be utilized by the plants? It is 2 to 10%. So from this 2 to 10%, we are going to take 1%. That is what we say when we say the plants are giving 1% to us. So here also you have 2 to 10%, and from there also you are making what? 1%. So you don't need to remember it. And this radiation which is usable for the plants, you call it photosynthetically active radiation, PAR. It's not something that you need to know, just for your understanding is there. Okay. Now, there comes something that is known as bioaccumulation. So whenever you're talking about what say this trophic levels and contents like that, you need to understand one very important thing. What happens is that when, for example, there is grass eaten up by grasshopper. Grasshopper is basically eaten up by frog, frog by snake, and snake by some bird. What happens? Suppose this grass has some pesticides. I have sprayed some pesticide into it. What will happen? For example, I have sprayed 2 mg of pesticide into some grass. So it will be having this particular thing. Okay, it will be still there in its body. It won't be digested, it won't be broken down, not digested, it won't be broken down. It will go to the next trophic level as well. So what do you call this process? Where it is getting accumulated, the chemicals are getting accumulated, you call this as bioaccumulation. What do you call this as? Bioaccumulation. And when does accumulation happen? When the rate of intake exceeds the rate of excretion. That means something is getting in that is way too much than the things that are going out. Okay, so probably it is not removed outside our body because it is not broken down properly. Probably we not have the things to make it broken down. So in Kerala, in Kasaragod district, people were using DDT as a pesticide. Now this DDT basically was put on plants. Okay, the plants were having this. People were eating the plants also. Okay, people were drinking the water from the soil also. Basically, when it was put, it seeped into soil, and from soil it went into water also. So basically that's how this particular chemical got into their body. But the problem was that it was getting accumulated in their body. It was not getting removed out. So whatever thing that we have is getting removed out also. It is getting broken down. But certain pesticides and chemicals do not get broken down. So their rate of excretion goes really less. But we are having these fruits, we are having this plants and all that has pesticides. So basically the rate of intake, when it exceeds the rate of excretion, you call this process as what? Accumulation, bioaccumulation. And when bioaccumulation happens, okay, on a longer run, you would be seeing something else which is known as biomagnification. Bioaccumulation is basically accumulation of things. Okay, it is what? Accumulation of things. Now suppose, okay, instead of grass, I am going to write plant. So over here, I have a plant, another plant, another plant. So this plant has 2 mg of some pesticide. Okay, this will also have, this will also have. So the grasshopper which is there, it will eat this, it will eat this, it will eat this, it will eat this also, suppose. So 2 mg plus 2, sorry, it is just Okay, it will eat this, this and this. 2 mg plus 2 mg plus 2 mg. How much? Basically 6 mg of this pesticide is there in this particular organism. Now, suppose there are basically 2 grasshoppers. If there are 2 grasshoppers, then 6 into 2, there will be 12 mg of this pesticide in the frog, because frog is eating on 2 grasshoppers. Now, suppose there are 2 frogs also. So, 12 into 2, 24 mg of this thing is now been there in the snake. So, here you see that there is an increase in the level of the content in the accumulation throughout the successive trophic level. This process is known as biomagnification, because things are getting accumulated. What is happening? And one organism is basically feeding on multiple organisms which are there in the lower trophic level. So, obviously the level of the chemicals would be increasing in their body throughout the trophic levels. What do you call this process as? You call this process as biomagnification. So, bioaccumulation, when things are getting accumulated, okay, and things are being eaten up again and again, basically what you are doing, you are making rise to what? Biomagnification. So, over here you have the contamination level. Okay, you see there are 2 of them, then this organism is going to eat this, so it gets more. Over here you see this polar bear is going to eat this, so it will be having most amount of it. So, biomagnification is the increase in the concentration of a toxin. Please remember, it's a very important question. It is what? Increase in the concentration of a toxin at successive trophic levels. Always remember, if the term increase comes, then you are asked about biomagnification. Okay, if they are asking you what is this process known as, where there is an increase in concentration of some chemical throughout the successive trophic levels, that means you are talking about biomagnification. Why is it happening? Because the toxin is getting accumulated, because the toxic substances cannot be metabolized, that means broken down, and hence is passed on to the next higher trophic level. So, other organism which eats it will be having it. This is known as biomagnification. So, biomagnification, bioaccumulation, remember that. So, which among them is a secondary carnivore, my dear children? I am asking about secondary carnivore, okay, not secondary consumer. So, grasshopper is not a consumer, sorry, carnivore. Frog is, eagle is, basically eagle is a consumer, this guy is also not consumer, a carnivore, this guy is also a carnivore, both of them are carnivore, but who is the secondary carnivore? Eagle will be the secondary carnivore. This is the first carnivore, this is the secondary carnivore. Okay, carnivores are the organism that feeds on animals, other animals. Okay. Now, what is the secondary consumer over here? This is the primary consumer that is going to feed here. This is going to be the secondary consumer. Who? This particular guy. Cool. So, these are the few terms that could, let's say, confuse you. Now, total solar energy is this much that you are getting. Okay, solar energy is this much. Okay, okay, wait. Total solar energy is this much, 1% of it is being passed to the producers. Okay, so how will you calculate that? For example, it is 2 lakh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into 1 by 10. Sorry, 1 by 100. 1%, right? So, what do you get? 0, 0, 0, 0 cancel. That means you are going to give 20,000 kilojoules of energy to the producers. Producers only have 1% of this total solar energy. Now, from here you have to keep on calculating. From here, but it will be what? 10%. This also 10%. This also 10%. And with that, I will solve one question for you. Okay. So, it is asked why there are no multiple trophic levels. Why there are no too many amount of trophic levels in a food chain. So, I will tell you the answer. Suppose the producer is having 20,000 kilojoules. What is the primary consumer going to have? 10% of 20,000. 10% of 20,000 is what? 2,000, but let's calculate. It is what? 2,000. So, this guy is having 2,000 kilojoules of energy. There is one more 0. Okay. Now, what about this guy? Again 10%. That means 200 kilojoules. Now, what about this guy? 20 kilojoules. What about the next guy which will be there? 2 kilojoules. After that, 0.2. Do you think there's an energy that can be passed on? Do you think they have enough energy to pass on to the next organism? No, my dear children. They would not have enough energy to pass on to the next organism, which is why there are no trophic levels. Remember, according to 10% law, only 10% of energy is going. So, there won't be enough energy to pass down to the next organism, which is why there are no too many trophic levels in a food chain. It will be limited to just 4 and 5, not more than that. Now, that is also a very important question that usually comes. Okay, fine. Now, we spoke about the biotic components, about the producers, decomposers and the consumers and everything. The trophic level, everything we discussed. Now, what about abiotic components? What are the abiotic components? Inorganic substances. Inorganic substances, what do you mean by that? Something that does not have CC bond or CH bonds. For example, you're talking about CO2. It has C and 2 oxygen. It does not have carbon-carbon bond. H2O. It does not have carbon-carbon bond, right? So, these are inorganic substances that we have. Then there is something that is known as organic substances. Okay, there is something that is known as organic substance. For example, C6H12O6. Glucose is an organic substance. It's an organic substance. Similarly, you have lots and lots of organic substances in our body, in our nature. Okay, not in our body, in our nature. Climatic factors. Okay, the air, the everything comes under or abiotic thing. Edaphic factors, for example, the soil quality, everything is what? Again, abiotic factors. So, our environment or basically our ecosystem is made up of these abiotic and biotic factors which constantly interact, and that's how we are able to live. If organic compounds are not there, again we are not able to live. If inorganic things are not there, again we won't be able to live. If soil is now there, then how nutrition will be getting into the plants. So, all of this is a problem, or basically all of them are interrelated. Now, let's talk about waste management, which is the next part of your chapter. So, basically children, there are two different type of waste. One is biodegradable waste, as you can see over here, and other one is non-biodegradable. What do you mean by biodegradable? Name suggests that means it can be degraded kind of easily. And how does it degrade? With the help of decomposers and everything that is there in a natural ecosystem. So, this occurs naturally. The breakdown of these waste occurs naturally. That is what you mean by biodegradable waste. Whereas there is non-biodegradable waste which cannot be broken down naturally. Okay, they might need some energy. For example, they might need chemical energy, they might need heat for breaking things down. For example, plastic is there, I have to heat it, otherwise it cannot be broken down. So, basically chemicals, I have to use chemicals. So, these things which cannot be broken down naturally are known as non-biodegradable, and the one that can be broken down naturally are known as biodegradable. So, waste that can be degraded using natural means or biological processes, that is by the action of microorganism, into simple and harmless substances is known as biodegradable waste, whereas non-biodegradable waste means that cannot be broken down by natural means or biological process, but with the help of what? Physical processes such as heat and pressure. Works? Cool. Now, over here, what can you do with the waste? Okay, how can you treat it? First is landfills. Landfills is basically you make a big, thing in the soil, okay, a huge gap in the soil, and then you fill substances like that. That is known as landfill. So, there are so many areas where the landfills are there, okay, but that's not obviously a good way to store things. But the non-biodegradable things, how can you store it anyways? So, that is one thing. Then you can, with the help of biodegradable waste, what you can do preparation of compost. You can do preparation of compost, and these compost can be used as fertilizers, manures. Okay, and also it can help in the production of biogas, which can be used at our houses, and also for the production of electricity as well. So, that can be done, okay, with the help of what? The compost, the biodegradable waste. Now, the non-biodegradable waste again can be recycled as well. If there is a choice, it can be recycled. Now, the next way how to treat it is incineration. The non-biodegradable waste can be treated by heating it. That is known as incineration. Now, production of biogas and manure is done with the help of compost also. So, that is the thing. So, this is how you can treat the waste. Landfill is there, recycling is there, making of compost which can help in the production of biogas and manure, that is there. Incineration is also an option. Now, there is disadvantages both for biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable waste. Okay, I'll start with biodegradable waste. Now, that is a famous question. So, biodegradable, that can be broken down by natural means, but suppose there is an area and people are throwing some waste content over there. Don't you think there will be too much amount of foul smell coming? Yes, and now this foul, that is one problem, okay, and now this foul smell will attract a lot of other organisms. So, other organisms will also come, it will sit on the waste, and then it will come sit on our food also. So, in this way it is basically transferring what? All the unwanted stuff into our food, and we are going to get disease. So, these are vector borne diseases that are going to affect us later on. So, this is one major problem of what? Or basically two major problems of biodegradable waste. We will read a few more, okay. So, foul smell, pest and diseases, and then groundwater contamination. Now, groundwater which is there, it is also getting contaminated because whatever content is there, it will slowly seep into the groundwater, and that makes it contaminated obviously. Now, we have non-biodegradable waste. So, what are this? it cannot be broken down very easily. So it will stay there for a long time and it will utilize the space. It will obviously utilize the space. Now second thing, when you are basically using landfill for putting down plastic waste and stuff like that, okay, and because of sun's radiation, whatever is there, when it falls, there will be certain chemicals released and these chemicals will be getting into the soil. From the soil, it will get into what? The water, my dear children, and the water itself will be contaminated again. The water anyways will be contaminated again, so that is a big problem. So environmental pollution, landfill overflow, these materials take up space in the landfills leading to overflow, that need for new landfill sites, obviously there is no space. Wildlife harm, why people, not people, basically organisms which are not aware of these things, they go and eat the food wrapped in the plastic things. So they are eating the plastic also, again it will kill them, right? Now we have long decomposition time, that is also a problem. Health risk, some non-biodegradable waste can leach toxic, leach as in it will release toxic chemicals and it will get into the environment. That is what you mean by that, the same thing that I explained. So these are the things of or disadvantages of the non-biodegradable waste. Please be aware of it. Okay, please learn it thoroughly. There are so many questions that have been come asking for the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. Cool. Now, going ahead, there is something that is known as ozone. Okay, that is the last part of your chapter. What do you mean by ozone, my dear children? So, ozone is what? Ozone is nothing but O3. It is made up of 3 oxygen atoms. It is made up of 3 oxygen atoms. Now I'll explain everything that is given over here. So over here we have the oxygen atom, that is O, and when it meets oxygen molecule, that is O2, what happens? When they meet each other, you get O3. Now ozone is what? Is highly reactive gas composed of oxygen atoms, that is O3. Now where is the ozone layer present? What do you think? Where is the ozone layer present? So usually we have different layers. Okay, there is troposphere just above the earth. Okay, and then we have stratosphere. Then we have mesosphere. Lot of things. Your stratosphere, in that you have a layer of ozone molecules which you call as what? Ozone layer. Okay. How is the ozone layer made? How do you think this particular layer is being made? So this layer is made when there is sun and there is oxygen. What happens? This sun radiation will be acting on oxygen molecules and will be breaking down into O and O. It will be breaking down oxygen molecule into what? O and O atom. What will this oxygen atom go and do? Oxygen atom will, they have just broke up, but they will patch up with another O. Oxygen atom which is there, it will go basically patch up with another oxygen molecule that you see over here. That guy will also go and patch up. And what will happen when they patch up? Again, you are basically making what? O3. So the UV radiation split the oxygen molecule, that is O2, into free oxygen or O atoms. Now this O atoms which are there, it will go react with another oxygen molecules to form what? O3. So UV radiation which is there, it is the one that makes the ozone layer. Okay, that makes the ozone layer. So do you think that the ozone layer can be destroyed by anything? Do you think that this particular ozone layer which is made can be destroyed by anything? The answer is yes. What do we have, children? Here comes a villain who is what? CFCs. CFC stands for chlorofluorocarbons. That means there will be chlorine, there will be fluorine and there is carbon. So chlorofluorocarbons are there which are being released by refrigerators, ACs and different machines. Okay, and these things now it is banned. Okay, now the use of CFC using machineries are banned, but still it was being released, which is why there was too much amount of CFCs, and these CFCs are going to cause a huge trouble for our ozone layer. How? I am going to talk about that. So this is what CFC, where you have 3 chlorine, where you have 3 chlorine and there is C carbon and there is fluorine. So what happens? One chlorine which is there, it will go and attack the O3. It will go and attack the O3. It will say, you have to break up now. Okay, it breaks up. What happens? One oxygen atom comes with this, 2 oxygen atoms basically is there. It's just there. Okay, now what do you call this as? You call this as chlorine monoxide. Haven't you broken the O3? Yes, you have broken the O3. Now again what will happen? Basically this CLO is there. There is another O. There can be another O also which can be formed. These guys basically can come together to form oxygen again, and this Cl will be left. Even if you do not study, go ahead, it's fine. At least remember this, what is happening, the ozone molecule which is there, it is getting broken down. You have O over here that makes the chlorine monoxide, and over here you have O2. over here you have O2, you have broken down the ozone layer. Now, if the ozone layer is broken down, what's the problem? If you see over here, the ozone layer is present up over here in the stratosphere. What is this ozone layer going to do? Ozone layer is going to actually protect us from the harmful UV radiation. From the harmful UV radiation. So, UV radiation was the one that was helping in making the ozone layer. Okay, it was helping in making the ozone layer, but that is also something, okay, that is also something which is going to cause a lot of trouble for us. So, UV radiation is kind of good. It says that I am going to, anyways, if I am there, I will create a huge lot of problem for the people who are living on earth. So, please make a layer, okay, please make a layer and protect them, because anyway I have to release my UV radiations. So, if the ozone layer is not there, the UV radiation will pass through, and if UV radiation can pass through, it will lead to lots and lots of problems. What will the UV radiation do, children? If the UV radiation comes through, okay, basically I'll tell you what does it do. It can lead to skin cancer. Remember these three very important points. It usually comes. It can lead to skin cancer. It can lead to cataract. That is an eye disease where retina, there is a hole in a retina, and it will lead to immune deficiency. It will also lead to immune deficiency, my dear children. So, skin cancer, cataract, immune deficiency, everything will be there. If what? UV radiation falls on us. So, to protect from UV radiation, what do we have, children? We have the ozone layer being formed. Okay. Now, how did our world try to combat this? How did our world do anything about it? So, the amount of ozone in the atmosphere began to drop sharply in the year 1980s. This decrease has been linked to synthetic chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, which were used as refrigerants and fire extinguishers, which were used in these things. Okay. Now, in 1980s this happened. So, people had to do anything about it, otherwise the UV radiation could fall and we could get skin cancer, cataract and immune deficiency syndrome and things like that. So, basically the United Nations Environmental Program, okay, UNEP, it is the opposite of pen. It is the opposite of pen, you can remember like that. Your pen, you can remember like that. Okay, UNEP. In 1987, the United Nations Environment Program, okay, what did they do? Succeeded in forging an agreement to free CFC production at 1986. Okay, they made an agreement, okay, saying that we have to freeze the production of what? CFCs. It is now mandatory for all the manufacturing companies to make CFC free refrigerators throughout the world. So, it is very mandatory for the companies that is out there to make what? CFC free refrigerators. Okay. So, in 1987 it was done by UNEP, that is United Nations Environment Program. I hope it is clear. Cool. Now, what if there is no ozone? I already told you, if there is no ozone, skin cancer, damage to the eyes, damage to the immune system, increased embryonic mortality, as in the embryo which is there in the mother's womb, it will also die. Okay. In plants too, there will be increased death rates and so many things are there. How to control the release of CFC? Buy air conditioning and refrigeration equipments that do not use CFC refrigerants. Buy aerosol products that do not use CFC and conduct. Basically, you do not have to use anything that can increase the CFC's amount. Okay. Now, one very important thing before I get into this, okay, that is, it is said that ozone is good at that layer. In what layer? Stratosphere. But what if this ozone is there in ground level, where we are there? Is it good or bad? It is bad. So, here in the ground level, it acts like a bad cop. Why? Because ozone will lead to so many respiratory issues. We will be having so many respiratory issues if ozone is there in the ground level, because it goes and reacts with lots and lots of content, nitrogen, phosphorus, this and that, and cause huge lot of intermediates which would be giving us a huge bad time. So, please remember, ozone and ground level is not really good. Cool. And with this, we are ending this particular chapter within a timeline that I thought is not possible. So, now I am going to talk about Disha's Scholastic Aptitude Test. So, for anyone who is confused about what you should be doing after 10th grade, my dear children, what you can do is take our Scholastic Aptitude Test, where there will be a 60-minute concept based lecture. After the lecture, depending on the lecture, there will be an aptitude test. Okay, and depending on your mark, there will be one-on-one counseling with a counselor, and that person would be telling what is the best, career choice that you should be going forward with. And that's how we are going to help you. So if you're someone who is thinking that, okay, I'm confused, you can probably find the link in the description box, click on that, and you will be able to understand a lot more things about it. Yeah. And if you think that this particular video was useful for you, do not forget to hit the like button and also share it with your friends, and also subscribe to our little channel, that is Disha Vidantu. So that's all, my little champions. Wishing you good luck, okay, and be happy. So bye bye, take care.